Wake up, 49er fans. Damon Bruce, Levi, Larry Krueger. Look at him today down at the stadium already. And welcome to Wake Up. It's good to have you here. We're brought to you by Sam's Chowder House down in Half Moon Bay. We will show you how absolutely wonderful that place is in just a minute. But Larry, it's good to be here. Thank you very much. Good morning, Raphael 562 49ers. Like and subscribe. Thank you so much. Larry, since the last time we've spoke, we've got more important and big names to throw on the injury pile for the San Francisco 49ers. George Kittle, Mooney Ward added to the list of who might not be available this weekend in Los Angeles. How about that?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Down here at Levi's on the grind. Long day. I got a long day ahead of me. All kinds of streaming, all kinds of videos, press conferences, practices, radio shows. I mean, I'm going to be grinding all day. And I've got some brand new shoes on that I'm feeling good about, Damon. A nice new shoe, maybe a potential new sponsor. Sponsor sent me these nice new kicks. What do you think of those? Not bad.
Those are pretty good. What are those?
They are Wolf.
What are those?
Wolf and Shepherd. Wolf and Shepherd, everybody.
And Shepherd. All right.
There you go. So a wolf and a shepherd were sacrificed for these shoes. But no, anyway, it's an incredible shoe and I'm loving it. So I'm feeling really good. You always feel good when you got the right shoes on. So anyway, but yeah, I'm eager to see what the Niners are going to roll out. And, to me, like we come to you on this Friday show, Damon. And by the way, we're brought to you by Sam's Chowder House. For everybody, you see up top, you see below, Sam's Chowder House. We'll show you video of Sam's Chowder House. Great restaurant in Half Moon Bay, and we appreciate them. They bring you Wake Up on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday all throughout the season. We appreciate Sam's Chowder House. But the big question today is the Friday show that we do. We always kind of come on right after John Lynch goes on KMBR and does his hit at 8:30 on the morning KMBR morning show with Murph and now Marcus. And today it was Marcus and Kerry, but Lynch said a number of interesting things today that I think we should probably get into at some point. He said that a couple interesting things that, well, one, he was talking about how he was doing an exercise with his personnel department about the 5 best linebackers in college football. And they took out Fred Warner's film from BYU and they're like, hey, this guy this guy's the best linebacker in the NFL. And he wasn't this at BYU. So in other words, look really, really closely when you're studying these players because nobody saw Fred Warner really. And now look what he is. I mean, Fred Warner's the best linebacker in the game. But the other things he said was that when he was asked about this weekend and the injuries, he's like, man, we got a deep roster and we got guys who are going to have to step up. And so at tight end, that probably means Eric Saubert is going to have to step up. Wide receiver, maybe Chris Conley, maybe Ronnie Bell, possibly Terrace Marshall off the practice squad. We'll see tomorrow, I guess, who's activated. And then at running back, obviously, we're going to see a lot more of J.P. Mason, but we're going to see Isaac Guerrero, maybe Patrick Taylor. Who knows? Maybe Keyshawn Vaughn off the practice squad. So then, Lynch seemed to reference that, they feel good about the depth of their roster. And even though they're down a few guys, they feel good about their chances. He also says that Talanoa Hufanga is an elite communicator, but he will be on a snap count. That was interesting. And then the other thing he said was expect Jacob Cowing to be a factor this weekend. So just a couple takeaways from Lynch, but so Cowing's going to be a factor. Definitely look for Hufanga to play, but be limited to some capacity on a snap count. And then all those backups at tight end, wide receiver, and running back. If you're a tight end, you're a wide receiver or running back, get ready to play. We'll see how much, but Kittle could be out. Debo is out. CMC is out. And it's time for Aiyuk to, really fire a great effort.
Well, and look, I know that there's a lot of already, down a few men. If you can get it going, George Kittle could really use you this week. But then you attach that word hamstring to him. If he's dealing with a hamstring, there is no lingering kind of injury that can haunt you throughout the year, quite like a hamstring. So Erring on the side of caution. Look, it is a big game. It's a division game. It is, a road game in a place where you will have home field advantage. The other team will be on a silent snap count, not the 49ers down at Levi's Stadium. If they can get away with sitting Kittle, I would try to do that. I really would. I don't think it's going to take more than 24 points to beat the Rams. They've been struggling. They're pretty one-dimensional. If they become multi-dimensional, it will have been a massive failure up front for the 49ers run defense if that's what happens, because we haven't seen them do anything. But if you could, let me ask you this, Larry, given all the circumstances surrounding the game, the Niners injuries that we know about, the established injuries of the Rams, whose absence do you think does greater damage to the Niners' chances to win this week? George Kittle or Mooney Ward?
That's an interesting one. To me, it's that whole next man up discussion. That's great. It's all dependent on who is the next man up. If the next man up is a Hall of Famer, then you're set. If the next man up is a donkey, then you're not. So I kind of like the depth, and I'm not ripping the tight ends, but I kind of like the depth at corner better than the depth at tight end. I think if you lose Kittle, you lose a ton. Where if you lose Mooney, yeah, you lose a lot, but you have other guys who can play corner. So I'm not as convinced on the backup tight ends on this roster. I mean, Saubert is tough, but he's kind of, to me, looks a little slow. Braden Willis can't really anchor as a blocker. Pline is a developmental guy on the practice squad. They're a little thin at tight end.
Do you think anyone gets elevated? Do you think anyone gets elevated to play for Kittle, or are they just going to look at Kyle Juszczyk and say, guess what? You're a tight end this week.
Well, I mean, that's the question. I mean, to me, the big question of the week is who do they activate tomorrow off the practice squad? They have 2 activations on a Saturday. Who gets called up here? Here are the options. I'll give you the practice squad. Tracy Walker, the safety, Chris Hubbard, the tackle, Trent Taylor. A lot of people speculating maybe Trent Taylor will be up, but I don't think that's the answer. Sam Aquinu, the defensive end, Terrace Marshall. That's the guy that I'd have up. Keyshawn Vaughn, Drake Nugent, Alex Barrett, Isaac Alarcon, Jalen Mahoney, Deshaun White. Well, he's a linebacker. Evan Anderson, Tanner Mordecai, Braden Willis, Mason Pline, Chase Lucas, T.Y. McGill. So those are
Larry,
your
call up
options.
Mordecai and let him take tight end reps. He's good.
Yeah. Give Mordecai the run. I think it's just, I really think you're going to see, Saubert, as a run blocker, and a lot of Tongas. I mean, it's funny. Jake Tongas went to Cal. They signed him last year. I don't know that anybody talked to the guy the entire year. He had a locker right in the middle of the room, and I don't think anybody ever said a word to the guy. He shows up this summer in camp, and I just figured, camp body, deep, because you had Cam Latu. Cam Latu was a 3rd-round pick. You had Braden Willis. You had all these other guys. And heck, they signed the guy from the Arizona Cardinals.
Logan Thomas, right?
Logan Thomas, right? So, they had way more established guys. But then you just kept watching the practices, and Tongas just kept making catch after catch after catch. I joked with him in the interview I did in the locker room. I'm like, bro, have you dropped the ball yet this summer? I haven't seen it. I mean, it's like amazing. So he's in great shape. He's 6'4", 240. He can catch the ball. So I think this might be the Jake Tongas, coming out party. In fact, I think Tongas gets a touchdown in this game. I'll lay it down for you right now on the 20th of September, a couple days before the game. Jake Tongas will score a touchdown.
I'm in. I mean, let it happen. Someone's going to have to do it. So if it's up to him to do it, do it. Look, he impressed. Tongas, he flashed. All you can do as a player without much pedigree is flash when the lights go on. He flashed in training camp. I thought he flashed in some of the preseason games as well. So put him in the real game and see what actually happens. What I want, though, is for Kyle Shanahan to take one of his young guys. give him a heap of responsibility in a game, and then not give up on him the minute something goes wrong. I want some conviction in these decisions, and one bad rep doesn't mean you're now out of the game plan. I would like to see Isaac Guerrero get more of a one carry, and that's all from you this afternoon opportunity in this game, and I think that will present itself. I thought it was interesting going back to what you said Lynch said on KNBR this morning about Talanoa Hufanga and how much he might actually play and what the snap count might be. But for him to talk about being a great communicator, to me, when I rewatched the 49ers-Vikings game, the single biggest problem on the field was communication, Larry, all day long. You had a confused offensive line, you had a confused secondary. So for Lynch to be talking about Hufanga being an excellent communicator, I think he's also prescribing exactly what this secondary needs to get better at right now.
Yeah, no question. I mean, we could go through it if we wanted to. I've got the plays. I mean, I can show you the miscommunication. Well, I think we already did a little bit of that.
We did it on Wednesday. There's no going back. There's no going back to game film on a Friday.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm just saying, I mean, we have examples. If you watch one of our earlier shows this week of the Jalen Naylor pass on the end zone, the 10-yard touchdown, both guys, nothing should have been. And I asked, Sorensen about it yesterday, and he gave me a look like, how dare you ask me this? But I mean, I'm like, what confused your guys there? It was a simple 2-man pattern. One guy went to the flat, the other guy went to the corner. It was no crazy pick. The only difference was the guy went inside the C gap, inside the tight end. And so maybe there was some confusion for a half a second, but both guys took the guy in the flat. Nobody took the guy in the corner. That's called a busted play, and it was a touchdown. It was one of the biggest plays of the game. And then one of the other biggest plays of the game was the 3rd and 7 on the final drive where, the receiver just runs a little a pattern to the flat out of a bunch. And the Niners have 3 corners sitting right there. It's 3rd and 7. Renardo Green drops like 12 yards deep, and the guy gets 11 yards. I mean, it was just way, way too easy on 3rd and 7. I thought at that point, that was ball game because the Niners' spirit defensively was broken. And sure enough, they were going to allow them to go the length in the field, and they did. And they got the second score, went up 2 scores, and essentially that was it. And, it's just disappointing. It was just disappointing because there's no question they need better communication on that offensive line. They need better communication on in the secondary, but they really don't want to point fingers. Like I asked Forrester about Brendel, and he's like, I'm like, why is Brendel your best choice at center? And he's like, oh, and he named like 6 different things that he does better than the other centers. And I'm like, fair enough. You know what? There you go. Lots of people are asking why Brendel and not this guy. Brendel's the weak link. Brendel had the lowest PFF pass blocking grade among all 49ers in week 2 against the Vikings. So a lot of people are saying, get Brendel the hell out of there. So I got to ask the question. So I did, and he gave us the answer. In Chris Forster's mind, Jake Brendel is better in 6 different categories than the other options at center. So he's going to be the guy.
Now, maybe John Feliciano's availability will change the pecking order, right? Maybe that, they just don't want to throw another rookie out there playing next to a rookie guard and Dominic Puni, who hopefully, continues to take the kind of steps he took in that Monday night opener against the Jets that left everybody so enamored with him. Not a lot of not a lot of enamoring with the entire offensive line up in Minnesota. This is a different Rams team. This is a Rams team without Aaron Donald. They're a team without a defensive identity, and hopefully it's a get-right game for the protection. And if the protection is better, the quarterback will be better, the running holes will be better, and then it shouldn't really matter who is out in the pattern if Purdy has time to go and find them. And believe me, that's going to be a formula that they're going to need to lean into in the coming seasons when keeping the talent all around Brock, is harder to do financially. And it's disingenuous to say that this is a week, Larry, where it's a referendum on Brock. Can Brock get it done without the superstars around him? Look, the guy's got the job. People have to stop asking him to reapply for the job each and every week. But there is an opportunity there, not just to silence the critics, but there's an opportunity for Brock to give this team exactly what it needs in a week where they are a little, hands down, man down from an availability standpoint, Purdy making Conley look like Debo, Purdy making Sauerbert look like Kittle, or, Tungus, since that's your guy, your pick to click this weekend, Larry.
Tongus.
Larry, this is a big week for Brock Purdy to just get the job done that we expect him to do, but also silence an awful lot of the people who still remain, every single Monday, all they have is a list of, mythical questions that Brock Purdy cannot complete in the current place that he's in. What would he be like on another team? Well, he can't answer that question. What would he be like with lesser talent around him? Well, maybe this week we can start to answer that question for you, if that's the question you need answered. And the Niners need a good game out of their quarterback. Full stop.
Question. And you and I are on the same side of this. So we're I don't know what, I don't even know how to label us, but I wouldn't call us pro Purdy, but we're not in that camp that's throwing this guy out every single time
we believe there is
doesn't look awesome.
We believe there is a professional quarterback playing for the 49ers. That's what we believe. Right. We believe this guy's a pro.
We believe the children are our future. Okay. Let them lead the way, damn it. Where are yours, by the way? You seem very comfortable, very loosey. There's no juice boxes, there's no crying, there's no. It's amazing what Jillian in the house will do for the Rascals.
Isn't it amazing? So but
she's like Rascal. She's like Rascal Spray.
It is.
They're just gone. Like Rascals be gone.
It is funny, though. She was working Dreamforce all week. She works at Salesforce, and it was her Super Bowl week, Monday through Thursday. She was out of the house at like 5:30 in the morning, didn't come home to about 10 at night. She's really putting in those hours. She's grinding hard. There's a lot of smooth sailing when mom is not around to trigger the boys. There really is. I mean, it's not like I'm running a military operation, but I think the kids know when daddy says something, he's not fooling around, where they look for a little slack on mom's sweater to tug on whenever they see it. And this was her first morning in the house this week. And my clockwork getting the kids dropped off operation. Yeah, well, exactly, Larry. The power of the belt. It's undefeated. I don't care what. No, but
it's amazing what the belt will do.
The kids get triggered by their mother's presence, and they try to play upon her emotions because they know that she'll react to their emotions much differently than I do. She'll get down on her knees.
Daddy don't mess. Is that what you're trying to say? Daddy don't mess?
Well, she'll get down, she'll get this squat posture and make eye level and try to explain away where, I stand up straight and just tell them, no, you can't have that granola bar. That's that. And I walk away from the situation. I don't explain to them why they're not getting the granola bar. They just don't get it. So it's more ruthless, but it's efficient, Larry.
Yes, you're a taskmaster. Okay, a couple Brock Purdy things I think are interesting. And I had to ask this question to Brock, and he had to answer it the way he did, which was through 2 weeks, the 49ers offense, Damon, is averaging the lowest target separation in the NFL. The Carolina Panthers are giving up a 31st at 3.0 yards per separation. The Niners are 32nd. 2.9 yards of separation. In other words, the Niner receivers are not getting separation down the field. Now, Brock Purdy's throwing a lot of dimes anyway. Brock Purdy leads the NFL in what they call aggressive throw percentage, 24.6%. That tracks the percentage of passing attempts thrown into coverage where a defender is within 1 yard of the receiver. Okay. So among the top 8 quarterbacks in this category, Purdy has the highest completion percentage among them and the highest quarterback rating. So he's playing pretty well, but he's not getting separation. And for his receivers aren't getting separation for the most part. Now, I asked Purdy about this. And I watched the All-22 before I did. And I saw Aiyuk get some separation, but the timing seemed to be off. Like there was either Brock was being harassed, Brock was behind, a sea of arms. They never quite clicked. The rest of the guys, JJ, Kittle, Debo, there just was not a lot of separation there. And I asked Brock about it, and he did the right thing. He's not going to sell out his guys. He's like, I don't know if I believe those stats. And, the film shows my guys are working hard. And, he said all the right things that you need to say to maintain the relationships, which are so important. But the film doesn't lie. And the film shows that the windows are really tight and the coverage is really tight. And to me, for Brock to complete last week, I mean, this is where I think people have lost their mind. Tons of people screaming and yelling about Brock didn't do this, Brock didn't do that. The windows were tight. The pressure was intense. They were on the road. This was a very, very complicated defense where they're sending 5 and 6 and all kinds of different guys, exotics, and then dropping into zones where they're dropping 7 and 8, making the quarterback scan the field. Very challenging game for Brock Purdy. To me, the fact that this guy came out in this game and completed 78% of his passes and threw for 319 yards, one of only 2 quarterbacks all week to throw for over 75% and over 3 bills. I don't know that we can sit there and be like, he was a disaster. I mean, come on. I mean, that's his worst game. I mean, seriously, we had people apologizing for awfulness from Trey Lance for a long time. Brock Purdy can throw for 320 on the road against that Viking defense and complete 78%. And we're going to sit there and park our car at the corner of let's bitch about Shanahan and Purdy. I mean, I don't get it. The 49er defensive line did squat. The busted coverages of Sorensen's defense. Wait, just now there was another busted coverage. I mean, they had an endless number of busts in crucial moments. So I don't know. I mean, I can see what everybody else saw. They didn't win. They didn't do well on third down. He held the ball a little bit too long and he had 2 turnovers. So definitely not one of his better games. But before we sit there and go, this guy is crap, let's evaluate what he had to look at when he was looking downfield. And this leads us to this week. I think this game is going to be close, Damon, because I think there's a chance, the Rams, I mean, Shanahan said it. The Rams are desperate. They're playing for their life. They're backed up against the wall. They just got drubbed by the Cardinals, and they haven't won this year, and it's week 3. I think whatever best thing the Rams can fire, they're firing it Sunday.
And I'm going to break out one of my old tropes early. I normally say this for later on in the year when teams start to get really desperate, but there's an era of desperation right here, right now for the Rams. Look for Sean McVay to run a fake punt. Look for him to steal a possession. Yes. You cannot steal a possession the way you used to with an onside kick that no one could expect because you got to declare them now before you do them. So I got to guess all in the category of fake punt, or maybe look for McVay to use the hybrid kickoff to have some razzle dazzle. So if I'm Kyle, I'm telling him put the ball out of the back of the end zone with each and every kickoff. McVay's going to be in as deep in his bag as he can get. Watch some, running back or wide receiver pass get uncorked in this game. He's going to be deep in his bag of tricks because, like you said, they are incredibly desperate, and desperate teams are dangerous teams. And there's a few desperate teams that make this week 3 schedule fantastic. What a schedule we got this week. And if we have time to go through the games, we have to. But this
one other thing, by the way, just behind enemy lines, little info. Just doing a lot of internet work late last night and looking at all the different articles that are out about this game. One of the things that I picked up on is that Sean McVay has said a couple times this week that they need to get Blake Corum, the rookie running back from Michigan, going. And there's been some speculation in other parts, Damon, that we may, with no Puka and no Cooper Kupp, see Kyron Williams maybe in the slot and maybe Blake Corum in the backfield. So get ready for that alignment. I mean, I am a huge Blake Corum fan. He ran for 28 yards on 8 carries against the Cardinals. He had a 41-yard return on the opening kickoff. But they're going to try to get Corum on the field a little bit more here.
He's a really good football player. I watched an awful lot. Awful lot of Michigan games are on my TV, and he's the star of all of them when he was there. He's fantastic. He's a fantastic instinctual runner.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, so, yeah, no, I was just
going to say that Kyron Williams had just 75 yards so far on 30 carries. He's had the most rushes of any player in the NFL, but he doesn't have a single carry of 10 yards. He's averaging 2.5 yards a carry. He hasn't been very explosive. So, but he's still a big part of their team. A lot of that
on their offensive line woes right now too, though, Larry, because Williams is a player. Kyron Williams can play. He's good.
Oh, he's good. Yeah, he's a Pro Bowler. He was a Pro Bowl running back last year. I just think in this game, because the Rams, it's like anything else. The Niners and the Rams, I think this game's super interesting. Why? Because Shanahan and McVay are both good offensive coaches. Both teams are down their weapons. So there could be no Debo, no Kittle, no CMC on the Niners side, and there's no Puka and no Cup on the Rams side. So you both guys are going to have to be really creative as far as formation variation, personnel groupings. Do you make Kyron Williams a running back this week? Do you use Chris Conley? Do you bring Terrace Marshall in his 4.3 speed off the practice squad? Do you go with a Trent Taylor? Do you go empty a lot, Damon, and just let Brock try to be accurate underneath and try to neutralize Verse and Young, their great young edge rush combo? This is going to be a very interesting X's and O's game.
Yeah, it's a coach's special coming up at Levi Stadium. And, one of the things that I'm going to get into.
SoFi.
Or, excuse me, SoFi Stadium, which might as well be Levi Stadium South. And that's one of the things I'm going to get into, when my show gets going at 11 o'clock today, how 49ers fans really do have an advantage in the NFL that very few teams can say. I don't know if the 49ers play a legitimate road game, but for more than 4 or 5 games a year. I mean, they pack crowds with their fans in other stadiums in a way that, not since like your glory days of like Kentucky basketball traveling. Kentucky basketball used to bring 50,000 fans to your 30,000 seat arena. I mean, it really did. Those cousin fuckers had nothing to do but watch hoops. So that's all they did. And
it is true. Isn't it weird? The Niners, if you say what's the Niner heyday, it's clearly the 80s and 90s. Now, they've had a great run really since Harbaugh, and then brief intermission there. Now the Shanahan era, they're once again iconic. They're a regular contributor or a regular contender for the Super Bowl. But isn't it weird? It's almost like a tsunami it's like it happens and then it's like the aftermath is bigger than the actual moment of the earthquake. I mean, it's amazing. The Niners didn't pack stadiums like this in the 80s. They didn't pack stadiums like this in the 90s. Now it's like 49er fans, you go to Dallas, they're there. You go to LA, they're there. You go to Arizona, they're there. You go to Mexico City, it's like 90% Niner fans. You go to London, the Niners haven't played in London, but when they do, Damon, it's going to be a total ridiculous one-sided deal with tons of Niner fans.
And what
London's
it is
a total Niner town.
And I've said this about the Golden State Warriors. When the Warriors moved, and look, they absolutely, when they left Oracle Arena to come to San Francisco, a little bit of their soul was extracted from that franchise. There was something special about Friday night games against the Lakers in Oakland. I mean, it was like Black Prom in there. It was incredible. There was a vibe that only can happen in Oakland, which is a shame about what the A's and blah, blah, blah. And we're not even getting into that. But part and parcel of why Oracle Arena was the loudest building in the NBA was because those fans were starving. They were starving. By the time they got to Chase Center, all these fans have been well fed. And you cannot make the noise of a starving man when you are well fed. And that applies to fans. 49ers fans right now are starving for a Super Bowl. They've been teased. They've been served some delicious appetizers and great amuse-bouches and the wine pairings. It all looks great. But when it comes time for the entree, whoop, they take it away. You don't get it. You don't get to eat, and you certainly don't get your dessert either. These fans are starving. And, around the Bay Area, there's moneyed up people. And they can get on airplanes, and they can buy the tickets in your stadium. And they'll go and turn what is, an inexpensive weekend in your town for them into something they bring 10 people with. I mean, it is unbelievable. And maybe it's just like the red jerseys and red pops on TV. But wait until you see what SoFi Stadium looks like on Sunday. It's going to look like the 49ers are playing a home game. I think I saw 60% tickets have been sold to Niners at this point. And it'll be more than that.
Well, it's actually, that number is really, really low. That number tracks, and I saw that number as well, and I did some research on it. That tracks the number of tickets that were bought for that game from zip codes that are in Northern California. But you got to remember, the Niners, Niners have been great for decades. So there's there's probably as many Niner fans in Southern California as there are in Northern California. I mean,
The Los
there's
Angeles
a ton
Rams.
of Niner fans down there.
The Los Angeles Rams are the fourth most popular football team in the city of Los Angeles. It's the Raiders, the 49ers, it's USC, then it's the Rams, then it's the Chargers. That's the list. And that's the accurate list. There are more Raiders and Niners fans in Los Angeles than there are Rams fans. So
yeah.
That's part of why it's going to be great. By the way, we're going to have Jordan Rodriguez joining us in just a little bit here, Larry. She's coming up
Rodriguez from the yeah, she's really good. She covers the Rams for the Athletic, and I think she was taking her dog for a bath or something like that this morning. But then she said she could join us around 9:45. So she's going to jump on.
I get it. I get it.
Yeah,
you got a baby,
but she's fantastic from the Athletic, and we'll get her thoughts on what we may see from the Rams in this game. Let's hit some chats here. We got some good ones here. Fuji Simeon 13 says, Larry, that SI alma mater had me laughing while at work. My friends watched it and are impressed. Oh, that's my red and blue. We'll fight for you. Yes. Otani got to 50-50, and my Dodger coworkers were waving Dodger flags and blaring
vuvuzela
horns in the office when he made 50-50. Oh man, I had to watch the Dodgers clinch and toast each other in the clubhouse. My thought the entire time was, when is Farhan leaving? When is Farhan leaving?
Shohei Otani had a better day than the San Francisco Giants had a season. Shohei Otani was more entertaining.
Remember that Sunday in the Park show? Did you ever watch Sundays in the Park?
No. I mean, I thought you were going to ask me this week in baseball, but no. What was Sundays in the Park?
It was like an NBC Sports Bay Area thing with Kipe's Kid and Carmen Q.
Oh yeah, no. I remember thinking to myself, "This is why we can't have nice things in the Bay Area. This is the worst broadcast surrounding any major league franchise in the history of electricity." So no, I didn't watch.
They had a segment called Fair and Foul, where they had a foul pole and they would jump on either side of the foul pole. And Giants baseball this year, just goddamn foul. I mean, just foul. Just absolutely
foul. Fair. Foul.
Oh man. All right. We got this one here. We get this one from David E. Larry, should we be concerned that Sorensen was comfortable with Odom covering Jefferson? I was shocked by his answer at the presser. I was too. Damon, I asked the question that I thought had to be asked. I'm not here to make friends. This ain't show friends. This is show business, and I had to ask him the tough questions yesterday.
Well, it's a legitimate question. It means you pay attention to football and you wonder if the defensive coordinator is paying attention too.
Odom on Jefferson. Did you want that matchup? Were you happy with it? And he just kind of filibustered, word saladed it and moved on.
I'll tell you who wanted that matchup. Kevin O'Connell. Kevin O'Connell literally spent his entire week just looking to find that matchup somehow, some way. If we run this guy off here this way, we have Jefferson cut across here, then he's isolated on Odom, and that's the matchup we're looking for. You just gave it to him. You gave it to him at the line of scrimmage. You didn't even have to look for it. And I bet you he doesn't do it again. The next time they play the Vikings, you will not see Odom on Jefferson.
4-4 Justin Jefferson, best receiver in football. Yeah. I've got a special teamer who's got 7 plays of experience. Let's go ISO Odom on this guy. I don't know. I mean, I tried to ask why that matchup. What do you think of that matchup? How to get to that matchup? As I said, it was a filibuster. There wasn't an answer there. Drew says, don't think I've seen Sorensen answer a question directly yet. You guys have interviewed a ton of these coordinators. What's your sense? My sense is that he's just not comfortable enough with what the answers are to give them. That's my sense. He doesn't want the thing to tumble out of control, so he's just gonna, he doesn't. It's not like he doesn't know, or it's not like we're stumping him, or no. This guy's really smart, and he knows his defense. He knows what questions are coming. He should. But here's the bottom line on the thing. 49ers, he was asked about his tackles. The tackles played awful. Now, I watched that film 19 times. I own a Chevy Tahoe. Unfortunately, I could have parked that Chevy Tahoe lengthwise between the Niner defensive tackles and Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold is maybe pretty good, by the way, because completed 72% of his passes through 2 games. So maybe he's better than we think. But they made it easy on him because they allowed him to step up in the pocket. Everybody knows you got to pressure Sam Darnold in his face. If he feels the pressure, he coughs up the ball. He starts making moronic, stupid turnovers. That's who he is. That's who he was at SC. That's who he was with the Jets. That's who he was with the Panthers. That's who he is, but they never got that pressure. Hargrave, Collins, they were non-factors. When he was asked about those guys, he's like, oh, yeah, I love those guys. Love the way they're playing. Love it. So we're in that phase of the year where, you can kind of just say what you want to say and roll to the next week. But eventually, guess what? The games happen, things happen, and you're going to have to, there'll be common denominators of these losses and of their struggles, and we'll notice them and he'll have to address them. So I don't know. I don't know what his plan is, his media plan is, but so far it's I'm not impressed.
I think his media plan, Larry, is evade, give you just enough so you got something to write down in your notebook, and I'm going to let Kyle answer all the real questions to the degree of honesty that he wants them answered. It's my first year as a defensive coordinator. I'm going to say as little as possible. That's how Sorensen has to approach every single lectern he steps to.
You know what? That's why you've been doing this. This is not your first rodeo. I was going to give you a little sounder, just something for that. I mean, that, there you go. That was money. That was a money take.
Thank you very much.
Or we could go with this, because that was a spot on take.
There's only one way to punctuate a well thought take from Damon Bruce, and that's with a oy, oy, oy! That's it. That's been following me from station to station. Wow. Anyways, incredible. Look at you. Larry's got toys now. I've got toys. By the way, somebody asked earlier, is Larry sitting in a racquetball court? No, Larry's at Levi Stadium. I'm here at the home studio. And we're going to have someone joining us in just a moment. Did you get through the supers, Larry? Did you get through all of them to this point?
Yeah, no, I think we got one more here. Let's see. Wait a second. We might have gotten through them. Oh, there's one here on the bottom that's not a super, but I started. Let me give you this one. What do you think of all the talk, like from Mel Kiper saying ban the too high safety defense? Seems really premature to go there after 2 weeks.
I hate it.
Did you see it? Did you see the Mel?
I've seen the conjecture. I haven't seen the actual Mel soundbite, and I don't want to see it because just saying something stupid, that stupid out loud, should not be even acknowledged. Look, every single rule passed in the NFL over the last 25 years has been to the benefit of the offense. You're going to take away a strategic coaching decision from the defense. Why even have it a tackle sport at this point? Why even field the defense? Why not making it like a backyard? Can you throw a football into a trash can taped onto the back of a fucking golf cart?
But what he's talking about, Damon, is not, you're talking about points. He's talking about aesthetics. He's saying that, I mean, if you really think about it, just close your eyes and think about it. Like Super Bowl 13, Bradshaw going down the field, some of the, the amazing catches of Swan and Stallworth. And those were some of his points. To what we have now with all these bubble screens and middle screens and this and that, it's like take the newest football fan, like the European fan. They react to the ball in the air, so a punt, and they're like woo, But also that bomb is the biggest play in football, and we don't really see the bomb anymore. And we saw it this week, and we didn't like seeing it because it was. You were getting it against you instead of for your team, but it's an exciting freaking play. Look at the way the crowd reacted in Minnesota to Justin Jefferson going over the top. Imagine we used to see that on the regular. We don't see that on the regular. That's like, I mean, seriously, that's like once a year, twice a year. It's made football a lot less of an aerial game. I think football is awesome. but it's awesome because it fits into our lives. We can bet on it, this and that, but it's not as awesome as it used to be. I mean, with all the big time hits and Ronnie Lott and Chuck Cecil and all those safeties of the 80s and 90s, Atwater and those guys are just bone.
Larry,
Just
it's
the
what are
crunching
you gonna do?
hits.
What are you going to do? Are you gonna legislate intelligent coaching out of the game? I don't.
Well,
To
no,
me,
but I
this is
mean, Damon, they move
the
people
evolution
around
of
on the
football.
field all the time.
I know, but this is the evolution of football, and I just think that having to anytime somebody's onto a whole grandiose 2 weeks of data, they want to maybe go change rules in the rule book. Like that to me is ridiculous, and it's actually something that that Jordan was writing about, and I think she's close to us. Is she here?
Oh, she's in our green room. There she is, Jordan Rodriguez from The Athletic, who covers the Rams, kind enough to give us some of her time this morning. Jordan, thanks. I'm Larry Krueger. This is Damon Bruce. Welcome to our 49er Wake Up Show. We're eager to see this game. Damon and I are both kind of speculating as to what Shanahan and McVay may do schematically with so many guys out. Why don't we speculate on your guys' side of the thing? What do you think? Are we going to see Kyron in the slot? Are we going to see more Blake Corum? What wrinkles is McVay gonna bust out on Sunday?
Good morning, guys. I'm playing guard, so surprise. No, they have no healthy players, really. I mean, it's actually one of the most astounding things I've ever seen this early in the season. Obviously, I know the 49ers are dealing with this as well, especially with some key stars. But yeah, they're going to have to adjust. What in the past they've historically done is they've loaded up in 12 personnel. This has been maybe November in 2021 when they were really banged up and couldn't run the ball. A couple times in 2018, they have loaded up in 12 personnel. They've run the ball. They've used extra linemen. The problem is that their second tight end, Davis Allen, is not practicing with back spasms. He's also subtly on the injury report, which is something that's pretty significant considering they don't have that solution now. And then they have no extra tackles. So you can't really adjust in the way that this team has been used to adjusting. I think you're going to see a lot of the screen game. I think you're going to see a lot of quick passes with Matthew Stafford. They really have to get their screen game off the ground because they're not running the ball effectively. They're not getting much movement up front. So Jordan Whittington, I think, will be a big factor in that. And you probably will see a little bit more of a mixture of Kyron Williams and Blake Corum, because again, using both backs as pass catchers, but the pass protection element and just the experience there is part of the reason why we haven't seen that much Blake Corum so far.
Jordan, it sounds like this game is going to be the ultimate test of attrition. Dealing with a game day injury, as injured as both these teams are walking in to this game, is going to be pretty devastating. I mean, if somebody goes down on the Rams offensive line, I mean, how quickly can Andrew Whitworth leave wherever he was on Thursday Night Football and get back to SoFi?
I mean, I told you guys it's me. I'm the backup. No, I'm just kidding. And I'm sure I am sure that they've exchanged texts, and Whit has very politely multiple times said to fans, guys, I'm not coming back. I'm not coming back. But yeah, they're down to their third left guard at this point. Logan Bruss, he was a 3rd round pick a couple of years ago, but he actually has not yet made the 53-man roster until this season. And so that's troublesome. Alaric Jackson's back on the left side, so that's at least solid, but he's been suspended for 2 weeks. He has not played any football. And they obviously don't play starters in the preseason. So he's not played any football since last year. And then, the right side is also dealing with injuries, and there's a rookie at center. So so much is going to fall on Matthew Stafford's shoulders in terms of that O-line cohesion. And if they can't get him protected, they have nothing, because if he can at least get the ball out, they have a shot because he's just that good of a quarterback. But if he's just getting killed every snap, then they're in serious trouble down the stretch, and their backups don't have any experience either.
Chris Shula, Don Shula's grandson, is the defensive coordinator, and him and McVay, I think, go back to Miami of Ohio together. And it's funny, there's no Aaron Donald, but Byron Young and Jared Verse, I think, are going to wreck shop in this league for a long time. Verse is a 1st round pick this year. Young was a 3rd round pick last year. And to me, this is where it starts up front for the Niners. I mean, they're going to have to get those two guys blocked. What have they looked like so far?
Yeah, they're going to be a very good tandem, like you mentioned, particularly in the pass rush. But they kind of put on tape last week that if a team can get a lead on them and then start running the ball, this is a front defensive line, particularly minus Aaron Donald, that's having some real significant issues defending the run. And that includes Byron Young and that includes Jared Verse, who have been such a bright spot in terms of their talent potential, but there's a lot of learning still to do in terms of, protecting gap integrity and protecting, not overcommitting to a play action. You saw that a couple times in Detroit in that overtime loss. And I think that's why you started to see Michael Hoyt sub in, just more experience there, sub in a little bit more for Byron Young. And that front, I mean, Bobby Brown is their biggest player, like literally their biggest player. And he's also dealing with an ankle injury. This is a smaller front line. The Rams have played that way for a little while with a lot of success, again, because you have Aaron Donald who can, close multiple gaps at one time against the run, but you don't have that anymore. And so those guys, I saw them in practice and after practice, all week this week, practicing and that technical work, really studying gaps, using the overturned garbage can looking equipment, ball buckets as like simulating offensive linemen, really studying gaps and technical work because the technique was just not sound. And that's I think the number one difference in this game is San Francisco sees this all over tape and is going to try to just hammer the ball so that Brock Purdy is not pressured in similar ways that he was last week.
I think Sean McVay needs to steal a possession maybe in this game, a fake punt, something, razzle dazzle. If he's got any wide receiver who can throw a ball, maybe there's a trick play coming that way. Maybe there's a running back throwing a ball this week. It feels like for a team that absolutely was like a late entry into the possible NFC West champions. We don't want to pick the Niners. Let's consider the Rams. It felt like the Rams became a very late in the preseason she pick to be a really good team this year. And they had the pieces, but there's so few pieces available. What is the level of desperation that an 0-2 Sean McVay is feeling and projecting on this team? Because as banged up as they are, the fact they're 0-2 kind of terrifies me because 0-2 does bring out the most desperate best in all like professional teams.
Yeah, I think it's something like 8 teams in the last 74 0-2 teams have actually made the postseason, and only 2 in the last 5 years, and neither of them were the Rams because they usually get off to a really good start. That's a really good question that you ask because in 2022, the Rams went through a similar situation. It wasn't as compounded as this was. It was extended over basically the first half of the season, and they really didn't get any juice back or any sense of joy back really until they just shut everyone down and signed Baker Mayfield. And that's not going to happen. It's way too early in the season to even be talking about that kind of a thing. But I'd like to see what Sean McVay has learned from that time. I'd like to see, okay, are you just going to go and, forgive me, F it mode and just start throwing the kitchen sink at these answers and solutions, playing really free, fundamentally sound, but like really free football and just trying things in every phase. And I think defense, you really just want to see the technique get better. But on special teams, like you mentioned, and then also on the offensive side where he has an extensive ideas book, right? Let's see some of it. Let's see what you can just try. What do you have to lose? Literally, at this point, you have no players. You're 0-2. Like, just try stuff. That's what I'd like to see.
I'm a big fan of McVay. It's funny, McVay and Shanahan started at the same time. McVay's got the Super Bowl. Shanahan's still looking for his, but Shanahan's had the upper hand head-to-head against McVay. What's it like to cover McVay? How is he down there around the media?
Oh, he's great. Yeah, he's super. You never see him rattled. I mean, you see him pissed, but you never see him get rattled. He's not combative. He's probably a lot like how it is with Kyle. Honestly, I watch a lot of Kyle Shanahan's press conferences, obviously. And then when I was doing the Play Callers audio series, then got to know Kyle a little bit better. And they're very similar to me with how their perspective of how they talk about football. They seem very open about it. Because I just think they don't think that other people can do the things that they do. And so they're open about kind of without giving game planning away, they're open about their process and why they do things the way that they do. Sean's very much like that. It is always tight around here during 49ers week. So that's definitely permeating through the facility right now, but I assume it's the same on the other side.
Jordan, before you joined us, actually, right as you were joining us, Larry and I were talking about the very cause celeb topic of banning the too high safety. Should there be a rule change to help? The NFL has been suffering this dearth of offense for 2 whole weeks, and fantasy managers are upset. And should they change rules? And it's ridiculous. I would like to read something to you that you wrote that I thought was brilliant. When you were responding to Bill Barnwell, basically reacting to this question, and you basically said offenses are asking defenses more questions than ever, but defenses have gotten better than ever at hiding their real answer, showing their real answer, and it better be, it's getting better because they can basically. They've got more guys who can play in multiple directions playing in a defense than ever before. What do you make of a league-wide lack of touchdowns? I also think it's a total bastardization of a preseason, which, let's face it, teams just full-on punt on these days. And I think the first 4 weeks of every season now is going to be the new sort of default preseason.
Yeah, you can, to that point, you can really see, ironically, we're talking about 2 of the most injured teams in the league right now, but you could really see teams trying to protect their bodies too as the seasons get longer. So the league created this. That is my stance. The league created this, and you can't be annoyed about it if you're the league because you made this happen. On the too high stuff. Okay, first of all, I would love for people to go watch when defenses are actually in too high, because more often than not, they're rotating out of that look. It's called a shell for a reason, because you can literally crank either side of that shell. I describe it as a closing umbrella. So if you picture an umbrella over the back of a defense, it shuts down over the tops of routes. You could shut one side or another, or you could flip around, or whatever you want to do if you're a defensive coordinator. And the reason why this is confusing for offenses is because the defense is not moving pre-snap in a reaction to the information gathering process of what the offenses are doing. So when you're seeing people in motion, or you're seeing different formations on either side of the stack in the middle, that's all information gathering from the offense. That's the offense asking the defense a question. How are you going to react if I show you this look? You could do only so much of that, as we know, with the running clock pre-snap. Well, now, defenses are not moving, which means they're hiding their answers to that type of thing. They're traveling like a third safety, or a motion man is what I like to call it, on the defense, so that you actually are only getting a reaction from one player who's not fully showing you what coverage the rest of the defense is going to be in. And there's hybrid players who can close other voids and spaces in the field. And you're watching teams like the Chiefs, for example, and the Dolphins did this last year. They're using speed players now to try to kind of mitigate some of the offensive line issues that we're seeing league wide, in order to get the same route layers down the field without necessarily knowing the information of the defense, but they understand zoning teams and where they're going to drop. So they're trying to get their players basically to run past them, and the drop is too deep, with the same amount of drops in the quarterback's step, to make it look like it's a longer play than it actually is, but you can still get the receiver to the longer play point. I'm rambling. I'm sorry, but I'm very passionate about this. It's annoying to me that there's panic about this. It is a good thing that defenses are smarter. It's also a good thing that offenses are having to look long and hard at terrible offensive line play across the league, minus the rock star that you guys have over there in San Francisco. And they're having to really look at what ways you can hide your own limitations while also dealing with defenses that are more hybrid and multiple, have more answers to the questions they're being asked than ever. That's a good thing. That forces evolution. Look at what the Cardinals are doing. Look at even what the Chargers are doing. Like we're cycling back to loading up and pushing people around and running the ball out of multiple personnel, like the 49ers have done, like the Rams started to do last year. That is going to start this cycle all over again, and everything will be fine. Nobody panic, because in 7 more years or 5 more years, some new hotshot coach is going to be out here running like four receiver sets, or the league is going to change another motion rule or whatever. It's going to be fine. The league will not have this lack of offense for long. Everything cycles back around, but it's a good thing that defenses are smarter and able to do this.
Something tells me if you can still bet on this league, it's going to be all right. As long as you can wager on it, I think the league's going to survive. Jimmy G, how's he fitting in down there?
Yeah, they like him a lot. He just kind of, I think there's always such a crowd around, I'm sure you guys got used to this. There's always like such a crowd of attention that kind of follows him everywhere. I've become aware that there's like 6,000 fan accounts dedicated to him or something. Like
It's the
they've
curse
all,
of being painfully handsome. It's something that Larry and I both deal with.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's like,
It's an occupational hazard.
it's like in 30 Rock, like John Hamm's character, when like everyone's super nice to him because he's handsome, but he's just like, I'm not saying Jimmy's like this, but like he's a disaster at life, but like he has just like the best life ever because everyone's just like, oh my God, you're so handsome. We have to treat you amazing. And so I'm not saying Jimmy's like this, but it does remind me of that 30 Rock episode. But I think like he's super normal. He seems super normal, which I don't think other quarterbacks in the room were just really delighted to discover. He's a good dude. I kind of joked that like Sean McVay built a quarterback's room of people he just wants to go have a beer with. I think he misses a little bit working in those little Shanahan rooms where like all of them are friends and fighting with each other all the time. And so now he's built his quarterback's room where it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna, just talk football all the time and be nerds. And like that's what this quarterback's room is. So it's been fun to watch. They all seem to get along well. Jimmy seems like really enjoying the fact that the pressure is not literally and metaphorically on him right now. So haven't really gotten to know him much because he was suspended, so he wasn't around, but he seems to be fitting in really well.
It's such an interesting matchup because we don't really know what we're going to see, right? 49ers have a bunch of guys hurt. The Rams have a bunch of guys hurt. Shanahan knows McVay. McVay knows Shanahan. The one thing that we do know we're going to see is probably about 3 out of 4 people in the building rooting for the Niners. What's that vibe like down there with the Rams, the Raider fans, the Charger fans, the Niner fans? The place is according to the reports, it's going to be 3/4 Niner fans. That can't be something that the Rams and their organization like.
No, and it's interesting. They can't be super critical about it because it's for lack of being there for a certain amount of time. So internally, if you're Sean and you're Matthew, of course that probably irritates you. You should not ever have to be on a silent count at home, but you see it, with these games, and that's an issue. But you can't really say anything about it because you understand the reality is like, yes, the Rams won a Super Bowl and they have a growing and very passionate fan base, but they were gone from this region. And it's, a sports town that also features, one of the biggest baseball franchises on the planet and one of the most storied basketball franchises on the planet. And you have to kind of just face that reality that it's a long road to making sure that you're building back in a very substantial way because you were gone for so long. And so I do think that it's probably very irritating for them, more so than they say or probably feel comfortable talking about, because their boss was the one that built the $6 billion stadium on his own dime. So I think that's that it's complicated, but it is a thing. It is something I think are just kind of expecting and used to at this point, particularly with these and this 49ers crew coming to town.
Jordan, on your way out today, can you tell us a little bit about how your Playmakers series came about? I thought it was fascinating. I got like a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old and very little time to spend on anything I want to do. But podcasts are easy for me. I can put in an earpiece and walk around and still deal. I listened to most of the Play Callers series, and what an interesting table that you got to put together with McVay and Shanahan and, Mike McDaniel, who was, he was just fresh off a season, his first year in Miami. Now he looks like he sells cocaine on episodes of Miami Vice. He just looks like such a South Beach guy. You can tell Miami's got their hooks into him. How did that even come about? What a great series that was. Congratulations with it.
Thank you very much. It was the coolest thing I've ever gotten to do. So many people were so gracious with their time with me, and I just was open with them. Like, I want to preserve this moment in football in time, and I want to do it in a way that brings people into it versus seeing it written on a page. I want people to hear these really passionate, smart football people talk about football, right? And man, did they deliver, right? Like Kyle's interview, it's still, I can't believe, first of all, that I survived it. Second of all, that like it was so intense but so cool, and just galaxy brain.
I don't know how you got him to relax. See, he put his guard down for you.
Yeah, it was just really I was very humbled by that. But all of them did that, and I was very humbled by that. The idea first came about though, somewhat ironically, because he's there in San Francisco now, was when I was watching the early days of Sean McVay and Brandon Staley battling each other. This was the first time the Fangio system was in Sean's building, and at that time, and the league is shifting again as we've talked about, but at that time, that was the thing that everybody wanted a piece of because it beat Sean McVay. And so now, so I was standing on the sideline watching them install it, and the building had been shut down because it was the first wave of COVID, and so it was the first time anyone could be back on a field and play each other, and they were running like a live install, which meant that they were going best on best quite a lot. And watching all the pieces collide with each other, these ideas, it was so tense. And it was the beginning of the end for Jared Goff there as well, because Sean just felt like they weren't solving problems fast enough. And that all started in those moments of incredible intensity on this little tucked away field in Thousand Oaks, California, with all this wildlife taking over the building because no one had been in the damn building for the last 6 weeks or so. And so it was just so, I thought, okay, that's happening right here. So that must have also happened back there when they were all in Washington together. So let's start there and go a little back and pay homage to Gary Kubiak and Mike Shanahan. And let's start to move forward and see like what happened next. How did these ideas and people collide with each other and build the sport that we're looking at today? And that's really where it came back in 2020, standing on the sideline behind the DBs and hearing everyone just how intense and the ideas and the concepts just like quite literally colliding with each other. It was very, very inspiring and something I really love about the sport and being a reporter is that you can see things like that and it changes you forever.
Jordan, awesome stuff. By the way, I got to share the screen because I think I love your dog's face here on your Twitter.
Oh yeah, that's
she's
techie.
A good follow on Twitter. Jordan Rodriguez, senior writer for The Athletic, covering the Rams, and we appreciate her stopping by. What's your dog's name?
I call him Tucky, but his name's Tucker. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, that's the link. That's the link right there to the Play Callers podcast. So it's still. I mean, imagine if you could go back in time and be like, you guys are going to be so good at what you do. They're going to be talking about outlawing 2 high safeties come week 2 next year.
Yeah. And you know what was cool doing those interviews? Like they still couldn't believe, they were like, why this doesn't feel like it's, a moment in NFL history. I'm like, it quite literally is a moment in NFL history, but you guys are in it. So you don't see it. And I remember when I told Matt LaFleur that, I'm like, dude, you're in it. So you can't see like really the impact that you're having. He kind of just like stared at me for a second, like, I guess I'll take this crazy woman's word for it and just participate. Right. And then like, I'm so happy that this exists because they're going to look back on this at some point and be like, yeah, we combined and collided and we helped do that. And I think that's so cool.
Well, more of Jordan, less of
Jordan,
Damon.
Thanks for your
fans
time.
Are weighing in. More Jordan, less Damon. Yeah, I said it. I'm being replaced in real time. So this is enough, Jordan. Enough of you. Thanks very much. No, really appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. It's so nice to meet you. Appreciate your work. Thank you.
There you go. Have a great weekend. We appreciate you as well. Jordan Rodriguez stopping by from The Athletic. She's a great follow on Twitter at Jordan Rodriguez. It's JOURDAN Rodriguez, RODIRIGUE. Fantastic. And it was good to get a little behind the scenes on the Rams. And she was really, really good. I love some of the stuff that she writes too. And The Athletic really gets some outstanding people. I mean, they really do across the country. Obviously here we've got Matt Barrows covering the Niners, but Jordan does an amazing job in LA covering the Rams. So lots of good feedback from her. We got a couple more supers here, Damon. Vince Vargas says Maximum Football Spartans tonight at Wazoo. Okay. Wait. There we go. Back. He says, you're right, Damon. Beat LA.
It's time to beat LA, man.
Vince,
it's time to beat LA again.
Trifecta. He says, coach resting players for this game, too confident. I don't think they're resting.
Look, no one's resting. And this isn't load management. This isn't like I got a hangnail, can't go tonight, coach. This is a whole different animal in the NFL. When you're hearing that a guy's hurt, he's hurt and cannot go. What else? Thank you, though, Vince. Thank you very much. Go Sparty.
And we got this. Captain Evil Amo says, my sister melts every time Jimmy G rolls through Starbucks in LA. She tells me he's great and engaging. He's a regular. No, he's fantastic. He's just not a very good quarterback. He's a hell of a guy. He actually is a really, really nice guy. He's a very simple Midwestern guy from Oak Lawn, Illinois. And I have relatives that live in Oak Lawn, Illinois. It's a great little town in the south suburbs of Chicago. And that's where Jimmy G grew up. And Jimmy G he's a real regular good dude.
He is, but he is the living embodiment of the NFL standing for not for long. I mean, to go from someone with the Super Bowl appearance with the 49ers, signing the richest contract any quarterback has ever signed, to the Raiders, to now this year, the closest he got to a football field so far is pretending to be Brock Purdy for the Rams scout team. What a turn of events, as the world turns for Jimmy Garoppolo, from starter to Raider to your Brock on the scout team of the Rams. Life comes at you fast in this league. It really, really does. By the way, you know where life doesn't come at you fast, Larry? Down in Half Moon Bay. Have we rolled the tape at all? Have we rolled the tape? Have we shown people how nice life in California can be when you have the ultimate kiss between a restaurant, seafood, the bay, Half Moon Bay? Look at her. There she is. Sam's Chowder House. They're ready to take care of you. Look at that army of people ready to make sure that lobster roll comes out perfectly.
Oh.
Look at that. Look at the paella. Look at the paella right there. A little lemon to squeeze all over
Here's
that.
Here's the question, Damon. The cioppino. I bring you a bowl of Sam's Chowder House's best cioppino. You're staring at crab legs, mussels, scallops, shrimp.
What's my first overall draft pick? My seafood draft out of the cioppino?
When you're navigating the cioppino, where's that fork headed? What's round one in the cioppino? I think I'm going to the mussels or possibly the oysters and just popping that shell and just taking that oyster out and then just put in some pasta and some.
I'm going right to the scallop.
I'll be back.
To me, the scallop is all about the texture, and if it sits, in the hot water, it might overcook a little bit. If it sits in the cioppino juice, it might overcook. So I take that scallop down first and foremost. Then I'm going to the mussels because they've already been popped open a little, which means they're getting colder by the second. They just are. So we're going to go to the scallop first. Then we're going to go to the clams and the mussels. And then waiting for me at the end is going to be that big crab leg, because it's just sitting in its shell, so it's staying nice and warm, and I'll have a little butter drawn up for it by the time I get to it. So, yeah.
Look at that.
And the shrimp is good. The shrimp is there for you when you need it. The shrimp is like the fire alarm. You can pull that whenever you want to.
I agree. I think you go scallop. You hunt down for just a juicy scallop that's sitting right there in the broth, and you start right there with the scallop.
And there you go. That is our cover 2 high safety, how you beat a bowl of cioppino down at Sam's Chowder House. We're so happy that they're the sponsor of the show. We're so happy to have them in the mix. Paul and
look at Jair Brown there on the patio.
Paul and Julie Shankman are such huge 49ers fans. They're fans of ours, and when they heard there was an opportunity that we were looking to attach a sponsor to this show, they jumped right at it, and we thank them so very much, and we will be down there soon. What we do, if anything else, Larry, we need to go down and film more B-roll to show people. I mean, that's sexy, but we just can't roll the same commercial every show 3 times a show. So we're going to have to go do a little reconnaissance on our own.
That's pretty good.
It is good.
Yes.
Hey, before we
that'll be the only reason. That'll be the reason that we give.
Before we get out of here,
hey, Paul, we're coming down for lunch, but it's just that we want to get more filming in. We need more film. We need more footage, if you know what I mean.
We didn't want to have to come and do this on our own, but here we are. We could have sent a camera crew, but it's me, Larry, and our iPhones, and we'll take 2 lobster rolls while we're waiting. Is it a little too early to talk trade deadline? I used to live in a world where talking trade deadline in the NFL was something that no one even talked about. There were no significant NFL trades, but the league has evolved. GMs are getting more aggressive. The 49ers have been the beneficiary of 2 trades for Christian McCaffrey and for Trent Williams that have reshaped this franchise. It's only week 2, but already, teams are starting to say, all right, we need more of that, less of that. 49ers got a few things that they could use more of right away for as deep as John Lynch was touting them being this morning. They maybe could use another running back if they're not going to use Patrick Taylor at all. They could certainly use another defensive end. They might need another outside linebacker until Dre Greenlaw gets back. Larry, what do you think the 49ers are thinking of when they start contemplating the trade deadline?
It's interesting. There's a great article out today on ESPN.com from Dan Graziano, just about, who could be available at the trade deadline and what teams. And he's starting to kind of canvas the league. And the trade deadline in the NFL has become a bigger thing there. And I think as teams like the Niners have picked up players like Christian McCaffrey, I think other teams are looking around going, you know what, that adding that nice player in November might help you get you over the top. And I think you're going to see more bidders at the trade deadline. But Graziano goes through all these different positions. Now, the one that the 2 names that are tied to the Niners that I think are interesting are along the defensive line. And it makes sense because I think the 49ers kind of like their internal candidates at running back, wide receiver, maybe even tight end, maybe even more so than some of us do. And look for that. I think John Lynch kind of referenced that today. You're going to see Saubert at tight end. You're going to see Conley, Ronnie Bell. You may see Terrace Marshall. You're going to see a lot of Mason, probably Garendo, Patrick Taylor. They have Keyshawn Vaughn. So I think, they may add a running back if they still have issues. But I think they kind of like their backups at those spots, but it's at the defensive line where they really don't have experienced backups. They get guys like Evan Anderson, who's very, very young, and he's a developmental tackle. So I think the 2 names that they threw out as connected to the Niners, and they threw out, 5 defensive linemen, 3 running backs, 4 wide receivers, and everybody you can imagine, Devontae Adams and a number of different guys. The 2 guys that they threw out that connected to the Niners, one was DJ Jones, who makes a lot of sense, defensive tackle in Denver, good against the run, good against the pass. He was here before, knows the scheme. They love him. They love him as a guy, right? So he's their kind of guy. He does make a lot of money, though, and it may not fit their cap. The other name, though, I think is even more interesting. The New York Giants, who look like a team that's about the future. They're not a contender this year, but they have a defensive end from Georgia named Azeez Ojulari, who his brother is BJ Ojulari, plays for the Cardinals. Azeez Ojulari is a defensive end, and they're saying that the Niners could be one of the teams that kicks tires on Ojulari. So I do think, at the end of the day, we can talk about wide receiver, running back, offensive line. The way the Niners kind of see the world is through the defensive line speeds up the other team's quarterback. So any issue they have on defense, they always kind of defensive line. And I think this year is going to be more of the same. So remember those names. Azeez Ojulari, New York Giants, and DJ Jones, Denver Broncos.
I'm going to bring up J49 here, who says, how about another D tackle that doesn't visit the Cadillac dealership? Well, I think he's talking about Javon Hargrave, and I'm going to tell you that the answers to some of the questions the 49ers have about their defensive line are sitting in guys that they've already paid well to be on this roster. A better game out of Javon Hargrave is what the 49ers need more than they need to make the right trade to have somebody come in and play better than him. They need Hargrave to be the Hargrave that they paid. That's what they need. To me, there are answers on this team.
Yeah, now granted, there was a couple plays where Hargrave knifed in. There was a couple plays where Collins kind of knifed in. But for the most part, Sam Darnold did not feel the 49ers defensive line. And a lot of it was you got to pressure Sam in the A-gaps. You got to pressure Sam in his face. That was on Collins. That was on Hargrave. They had great matchups. They were going against Bradbury and Brandell and Ingram, and those guys had gotten dominated the week before by Dexter Lawrence. And I didn't hear Hargrave or Collins' name called all day. They didn't impact the stat sheet. They weren't great against the run. They didn't touch the quarterback. I mean, that's a big part of why Sam Darnold had a field day. On that Jefferson 97-yard bomb, Sam Darnold stepped up in the pocket with total conviction. In that end of the first half field goal that they kicked, in the key third down play, Sam Darnold, just got all the defensive linemen behind him and just took off down the middle of the field. So, they got to do a better job at being impactful at defensive tackle. Right now, their defensive tackles are out there, but they're not making an impact. At least not from my vantage point.
It's an impactful week 3 around the NFL. There's going to be some serious fork in the road games as far as, your first half of your season looks like anyways. There's still an awful lot of football, and that applies to everyone. But we got some whiffs of desperation around this league right now, and the 49ers are walking into one of them. The Rams are 0-2. They do not want to be 0-3. I don't think that there's any team in football, though, Larry, that gets to check the do not want to be 0-3 box as much as the Baltimore Ravens do. The Ravens have great aspirations for this to be their year, and they have started 0-2, and they're at the 1-1 Cowboys. Cowboys look like a pretty good football team in Cleveland week 1. They got their doors blown off by the, hey, look at this offense, New Orleans Saints, that has been really, the one team that hasn't struggled offensively so far in the NFL this year. And it's Ravens and Cowboys this weekend. That's a huge game right there. You got Eagles at the Saints. Again, the Saints have been just a flamethrower of offense so far. Eagles coming off a rough loss on what was that? Monday Night Football? But yeah. What was it? They
just lost to the Falcons, and I'm reading today that they lost C.J. Gardner-Johnson. He's on the injury report. He's got a foot injury, hasn't practiced this week. So they lose C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and they've gotten off to a slow start. So they're a team to watch this week for sure.
What I would like to see is the 2-0 Steelers beat the 2-0 Chargers. Steelers go to 3-0, and then Brandon Aiyuk demand to trade to Pittsburgh.
Steelers are staying with Russell.
Are they, or you mean they're staying with Fields, or they're going to Russell?
They're staying with Fields instead of Russell.
Yeah. Well, he's been just good enough to get them to 2-0.
Yeah, they're staying with Fields.
Lions at Cardinals is a very interesting game this weekend. The 0-2 Panthers with Andy Dalton getting tapped on the shoulder. If they go and beat the Raiders, if the Raiders lose at home this week to the Panthers and Andy Dalton, that's it. Like whatever excitement you might have had with that win in Baltimore, it goes right away, and you're back to just being the Raiders. It's the one home game you're going to get in Las Vegas all year. There aren't enough Carolina Panther fans to take over Allegiant. There aren't. So it's the one home game the Raiders got. They better beat the Panthers. Sunday Night Football gives us Chiefs and Falcons. That could get interesting. And then we get a double dip of Monday Night Football. Jags at the Bills. By the way, dude, Trevor Lawrence is playing the kind of football that has to give a lot of people concern. I mean, he has just been awful to start the year, and I don't think he's an awful player at all. He's pretty good, but he's not been so far. Commanders at Bengals, and you want desperation? Bengals. So there you go. This is a hell of a weekend, Larry.
There's a bunch of good games. I mean, the 0-2 teams are desperate. So when you see 0-2 against 2-0, really give that 0-2 team some consideration. I gotta think the Ravens beat the Cowboys in Dallas. I can't see the Ravens going to 0-3. I think that Seahawks Dolphins game's interesting too. Who are the Dolphins going to go with? Skylar Thompson? And Geno's playing well. Seahawks are at home. They're 2-0. McDonald's got them feeling good. I kind of like the Seahawks there, and I kind of like the Raiders this week.
Oh, Skylar Thompson sounds like the homecoming queen's name, doesn't it? Like that doesn't sound like a quarterback.
I know. Dude, have you seen the Raiders? I like the Raiders. Thompson I like the way the Raiders. I like Minshew. I like the way the Minshew is playing for the Raiders. He's a competitor. I also think the Chargers are going to go to Heinz Field and beat the Steelers. Steelers are favored in that game.
Yeah, if I had to bet that game, I would take Chargers and probably go money line.
Yeah. Why not?
I
like that idea.
Not? Why not? Well, Larry,
We got a couple more here. Okay, we got that one on Jimmy G's melting sister. Okay, here we go. We got this one. Nathan McFadden. Could we see 3 safeties? Malik Mustafa, Huff, and the man they call Tig. That's Jair Brown. I think we could at some point see 3 safeties. I know they want to get Mustafa out there. The Niners safeties have not moved all that well.
Well, so your third safety is playing your nickel, right? I mean, that's what you're doing.
I mean, I think there's a chance that we're going to see more of Renardo Green going forward, in whether that's inside or outside. I think Renardo Green's going to get more run.
Rookie do you think
worked out
be
3
asked to do more
Monday.
Which rookie do you think is going to be asked to do more Sunday at SoFi? Renardo Green or Jacob Cowing?
Ooh, I think Jacob Cowing this week. I think this is a Jacob Cowing week. I think Jacob Cowing is going to have a bust-out game in this game. Angel Murillo.
Angel Murillo.
Angel Murillo. Morning, guys. Larry, what's the status of you coming down to Levi's South so we can pre-grace with your son?
Pre-game. I think he meant pre-game.
Pre-game.
Maybe you say grace before a game. I don't know, Larry. Maybe you get a little religious.
We're not going to make it to Levi's this week, or to SoFi this week, but I would like to do some. Who I kind of like. I kind of like my that guy Art Man. I'd like to do a little Art Man. Walking through the parking lot. Do a little. Maybe the next Niner home game. Do some filming out in the parking lot. Just go from tailgate to tailgate. Stealing beers, shots, and dogs. What do you think?
There you go. You walk into the press box halfway in the bag. Maybe you sober up by post game. That'd be great.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, Kyle. Why didn't you blitz more? You just out of it.
You should have red dogged him, Kyle. You should have red dogged him. You should have put the red dog on him. What do you think about the red dog? What? Excuse me, Larry. You okay? All right, dude, you're freezing a little. You're starting to cut out right at the wrong time. So I think this might be it, Larry.
I think this might be it, Larry. All the time we have together today. Thank you so very much to Jordan Rodriguez for joining us. She was fantastic. To Larry Krueger in his hermetically sealed studio down at Levi's Stadium.
Oh, Larry, I didn't show you this.
I think it's safe to say that Jordan Rodriguez is a football gal.
Gal.
Look at that, baby. Look at that. Look at that. The shield. It's called lava. It's the lava shield right there. By the way, get a helmet sticker for every 10,000 subscribers. So we need to get 30 on there. We're going to slap one more on.
Nice.
That's going to do it for us. Thanks for checking out Wake Up. I'm going at 10:45 with Chase Sr. He's a football guy. Damon, what do you got?
Coming up at 11. Oh, no, there we go. It's a Sports Fun Friday, Larry. I'm taking calls. People want to call in, talk in. We're taking calls coming up on the show at 11 over on Damon Bruce Plus. So we'll see you over there, and you and I will be back at it, of course, for a little post-game. We'll talk to you on Sunday, and then we'll be right back at it Monday here on Wake Up. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks to Jordan.